So thank you for inviting me, Ariel, and I'm happy to be here. So yeah, I put this title on the talk, and let's see if you follow me what I am aiming for. Oh,
We might have to point at the desktop, maybe.
oh, so it's quite intimate. It's wireless.
Yeah. You have to stand in one place.
So lite outline on my talk. I will give short background motivation and then a little recap on adaptive communications and then what I think of potential communications, sensor-based communication. And then what I will highlight on data twinning, complex data communications, and then some take home messages. Let's see if it works now. Okay, I don't know how I'm going to do it. Maybe I can stand back here.
You need a wrist.
Yeah,
Wrist somewhere.
This is perfect. This is a good illustration of this. So, Charlotte and my team, we have been very active in EU projects, the pre-standardization, larger projects, the integrated project coordinated programs, and now we have a Hex flagship project that finished summer last year, and the ongoing Hex-2 that finishing summer next year. So I've been in the kernel of those, setting them up and driving what we should. GMS should be both 4G, 5G, and now 6G. Exactly. I wish. Maybe I think we should stand here. So a very quick recap on where we are, where we're going. 4G was the goal was to make a mobile internet with rich multimedia. With 5G, we focused on increasing capacity and per speed by enabling densification and also as using millimeter spectrum, at least academic, and it's taking off maybe for other areas. The goal wasn't to create a high speed, high capacity mobile internet. And we also wanted to enable the visions of connected devices at scale with the quality and less of problems with the help of MNOs. So it was an Internet of Things. And then to enable what sometimes called Internet of Skills, robust low latency air interface for remote actions. And then also moving human skills, not only information from long distance. So there were a lot of use cases things happening here. So I do this recap a bit here. Because I think there are lessons to learn about what the mobile generation should be about. One of the low-hanging fruit was in this industry automation, and then you working close with the companies to companies, and it's closed environment, it's not public spaces. Still, it took a lot of years to make this happen. We worked at industries between industries. And also was empowering for going from products to services. And we click away there. That's another bit on the. Oh, I could do. So to enable a service-oriented ecosystem, and that is transformed the traditional industries, and that's also industry to industry, a lot of things happening. Then we thought a lot should happen in the automotive industry in 5G types, but that's very complicated, complex area. So we have a mobile connectivity to the cars, we have a vehicle clouds, those things are decently easy, but then to really fuel traffic safety with the 7 tweaks, that takes much longer time because it's disrupting the ecosystem and it's happening in the public space. So things need to be very safe and work for everyone in a heterogeneous environment where some cars are connected and some are not. Smart grids is also happening slowly because it's another completely other kind of ecosystem. And there are also a lot of transformation happening there, where we have renewable energy sources and transforming what is a consumer, what is a producer, and so on. So an ecosystem transformation that takes time, but there's still a lot of opportunity. And then in smart cities, there are a lot of opportunities, but here we have more politicians involved as well. It's less technically driven, it takes time. And then agriculture that actually take more faster than the forests are actually early adopters many of them. So maybe I should go back this. And then finally, e-health that the people talked us a lot about, and there's so many opportunities. But it's another ecosystem. The decision makers are not engineers, and they have other drivers, and also public money to a big extent in many countries. So I think the lessons to learn what each generation should be about, because we are stretching away. Some of those 5G use cases we have not delivered on. They are floating over to 6G. Some other use cases we are delivering on from 5G already. So 6th generation mobile communication network, we see all this happening still in different phases for deep digitalization of the society. And that we think that 6 should be about the convergence of the digital, human, and physical parts of our world. But to make that happen, it's not only good to have things. We want to address those more difficult use cases where we are deep into society. We need to have trustworthiness. We need to definitely have inclusiveness and sustainability. And if we do this right, then we also can create an internet for society needs and generate the nation's sustainability goals. They have the same target date, those as the UN Sustainable Development Goals 2030, the same as target 2016. From a technical perspective, in early times we had a convergence of communications and computing. Now we add to that sensing, and we add computing and storage, with also at large AI intelligence, both for the offline design, for the online design, for running applications in the mobile network on this information, and maybe terminating that and do the learning models there. For the network well-being, but also applications on top then, and create APIs for quick use of the innovations. So the HexX project, we identified those use case families: sustainable development, multi-twinning, was telepresence, robots to collaborative robots, and robots trust zones, and the strategy use cases here were Earth monitoring, immersive smart cities, virtual reality work, interactive cooperative and mobile robots, and personal healthcare. So somehow those use cases are illustrative here. They are very similar to 5 use cases, but they are taking it further, deeper, more advanced, more at scale. So I just want to emphasize this, that we are floating generations. So the enablers from the HexX perspective, where we saw we want to see the opportunity on the higher spectrum, great opportunities for precise localization, for precise sensing, for higher capacity, mobile backhauling, and also enable the XR or immersive experiences. Still, it seems like now the early rollouts will happen in the lower bands, so FR3 bands up to 40 gigahertz, so seems to be what takes off. The upper bands have 10 terahertz, up to 300 gigahertz or so. There are important applications in the wireless backhauling and a couple other cases, but there's still to work to be done on specific use cases for the access side. Though what is taking off is that we have a theme for this workshop, sensing information. And once again, if you look back on what 5G was about, it was a lot about an MNOs wanted to find a way to earn money without shuffling more bits. Or we say another way, who's ready to pay 10 times more for 10 times higher data rate? In general, not. So can we use the bits in another clever way and create a value for other services? That's the way to fuel the mobile industry. And here we have a lot of opportunities by coordinating radar systems. This could be, for example, cell bit mix scenarios. We have auto-brake systems on the cars. We have automotive radars. They start to interfere. Just to have a simple control, orchestration of those radar resources is one step forward. Then we can go all the way to fully integrated sensing communication, reusing same hardware, adapting maybe a bit, but in the same algorithmic framework on waveforms all the way down, and reusing the sites. So this is what the real mobile industry thinks are now opportunities. I have a slide since was before I think 4 or 5 years ago, what should be the key technical enablers for 6G. And when I look back on them, I think everything's about densification and integration. It is, we have more spectrum, but it's more antennas on both sides, transmitter receiver side, try to have other kind of form factors on the antenna units for making them simpler and more easily to deploy at scale. Also densifying and localize the spectrum usage in a sense of BMIMO. Enabling densification without needing fibers or separate calling. Enabling smooth service continuity by tightly integrating protocols, so integrated mobility, and enabling consistent coverage. We talked about earlier on NTN and the importance of that, which is getting more and more important, and I also fully believe in that. And once again, this service continuity, densification, and integration. Also doing that with heterogeneous spectrum. Back in time, we looked into hybrid FSO and then midwave in the backhaul. Now we talk inter-LEO satellite links is another important element. And then converting the access backhaul not only in a IRB case, but maybe also by more mesh backhauling and integrating also the end-to-end orchestration for controlling the service layer agreements, so end-to-end slicing, by start to slice also radio resources in an adaptive way in a heterogeneous access. And then localization and context information and sensing information, and I'll come back to those. So DMIMO or corporate communications is quite old. We actually back in 40 times when we worked on single frequency systems, we said, okay, we can't have frequency reuse system. We need to have the same resources available in our cell. Sure, but then we started to get too bad SINR at the same edge, so we need to start to coordinate. Okay, and operate, now we don't want to build more base stations. Okay, what can we do with the sites we have? Okay, so start to see if we can coordinate it. Maybe we can distribute the radio heads and have a few fibers here or there, or even do that or wireless, or have some kind of relay node. But and then this tight cooperation between base stations. But to do that, we need good backhaul fibers, and they turn out to be difficult to dig, especially in the developed old cities where you don't want to dig too much. That's too costly. So this kind of backhauling IDs, and after having 5G, where we that all the time one realized was happening already standardized as part of 4G, but it really take off because we were too low the frequency. If we got the frequency, we had enough system bandwidth, we can reuse some of those access band for backhauling. So then people thought it would take off. And gradually, I think it might do, but it takes some time. So in 6G, we looked into different kind of DMIMO networks, and here we looked into complete different form factors on how we did deploy them. For example, Ericsson radio Stripe and radio Viva approaches and other vendors are similar to these, where you do very tightly integrate. You have an access point and the Ethernet to power and backhaul over Ethernet cables, everything in a table, just put it up around the ceilings in an indoor environment, for example. So really looking for how can we do dense access point deployment. And then when we do that, then we can start to get a network that are very non-cellular. So it's very unstructured. And in general, I say people not getting smaller, buildings not getting smaller, so when we densify, we get much more variations in the use of the resources. there will be from time to time. Most often, I think he had 20% one day he had done some calculations that 99.5% of the time the access point will have nothing to do. This means we really need to think about adaptation. And then we also looking at what kind of other nodes can be deployed, and RSs or network control repeaters are good ideas here. I think the basic difference in our view here is that an NCR, by definition, is have an amplifier. It also have two separate arrays, one for receive, one for transmit. Mean you can do absolute beamforming, whereas an RS can do relative beamforming because it can just depend on incoming wave direction. You are with a given weights on RS, you get another direction. So the cooperative communication within this distributed antenna system, the two basic approaches that are still valid in the definitions here from times. We can have this illustrated here. We have two cooperative base stations with two users at the cell edge here that have a band INR, which have been served and coordinated. So you can just have a single control channel where you tell that, okay, I'm serving my user here, so feel free to serve your user on the same resource. Type resource, okay, and then next time, so okay, I'm serving, okay, then I'm serving. So you resolve the balance. Or if you do it fully tightly cooperative, then you can use this as a network MIMO distributed antenna systems where you get if you have full channel information, you have a H matrix and you can play all the MIMO schemes, but just that they are distributed antennas. So in the downlink, you get the ODI combining and the users just see one signal. And in the uplink, you get certain information and you combine it by moving it around to one base station, so to a central unit where you provide something. So there will be gains on that. We saw in the 40 times by moving the interference and then cutting some of the capacity locally, but then increasing capacity in these weak areas. And if you have some more nodes, you can make it even more smooth. EDR overall capacity goes up. Whereas at the millimeter bands, this is the illustration from Bristol campus area. I think by the measurements simulations were at 60 gigahertz, so it's quite clear the differences. There are no window auto penetration. There are very big differences in the capacity depending on where you are. So we need to be more precise on how we communicate. We cannot think about broad sector antennas or beams. We need to be more precise. So with that as a background, I will step back on what we did in adaptive transmission back in 40 times and forward. We focus on link adaptation, fast scheduling, and then combine with transmission schemes. And we do that what we call picture channel dependent scheduling and fast link adaptation. And we could adapt the time frequency resource block, and then we had a fallback mode that we call the no-fix adaptive transmission fast terminals, or if there were combined channels like multicast. So robust transmission, and then we adapt more towards the shared fading patterns. And that meant that we were ending up in a very balance in the data rate depending on the speed. So at high speed, we had a factor of 10 lower data rate than at the highest speeds, because we don't have channel knowledge. So we worked on that and I think about what can we do? What's the source of a problem to not have channel state information? Well, the basic problem is simply that you are moving or objects are moving. But actually, we looked into this and we collaborated with Team Rest and moved around a car and measured what is actually happening with the small scale fading here. And so the basic idea we have is what we call predicted antenna. That we have in this example that antenna, we can think of the basic approach as two antennas. So instead of one, we put one antenna, and that antenna is estimating the channel at a given spatial point. And then while you move, this channel estimation is reported back in every system. It's reported back to the base station, and when the next second antenna comes to the same spatial point, the base station uses that information to do the transmission, assuming that is the fresh CSIT. So we did estimations on it. This would run around was 268 gigahertz, 20 megahertz of the system for 50 kilometers an hour. And we collected all the channel measurements, and then we did some post-processing, including coupling compensation and so on. And we did that. We could see that we could predict the channel 3 wavelengths ahead at least. We didn't do more. And if you compare to just signal processing approaches where you have one antenna, common filtering prediction, you can do 1/3 of wavelength because you cannot predict down the valley enough on another hill and so on in a standard wavelet. So this was at least a factor of 10 better, and it didn't saturate. So we had more than 94% cross correlation with the first antenna measurements and the second, and then the second antenna coming to the same spatial point. So this seemed to be quite a good idea, and we want to generalize that for massive MIMO downlink, and I use it just to Bruce Powering Labs to just carefully illustrate what I mean. This is the standing wave scale of this is the wavelength, and that is the source of the small scale fading. So if you avoid communicating on these dark areas, I mean, then you have a good channel all the time. So that's the target, to always try to identify the spots and then communicate at those spots. And the thing is that those don't move much, typically in an environment. There's the biggest source of small scale fading is when you are moving here, you go up the hill down the valley with the antenna. So if you instead measure the channel at the spatial point, and then later on when you're there, you are communicating on the same spatial point. So this is what I want to make you think. We are not tracking a channel between two antennas, one transmit antenna, one receive antenna, and track that channel. No, we track the channel from a fixed transmit antenna to a given spatial point. So stop thinking about communicating from one antenna to another antenna. Think about communicating from one transmitter to a spatial point. And we generalize this also with beamforming, and so we do quite. This also drives it for happening in Munich. We do beams at 64, 228 beams. We can get very reliable communications by predicting what will happen later on and reuse those speeds and those spatial points. So in general, this is what I think could be a way of thinking. We are accumulating. We know that we will communicate a bit later on here. We are communicating along certain spatial points, and those are the points where we should learn the channel, and there we are where we communicate. And so far, this was on the same vehicle, but there's nothing that says that you cannot learn this and use it for later use or later vehicle coming to the same spatial point. What matters is, of course, if you want a small scale fading, then you need to be on that spatial point with a fraction of wave. And that works at very low frequencies, but maybe not at high. But actually along centimeter wave communications and along trams and trains, it makes sense. Maybe not along between cars, because then the variation where the cars are going sidewise and the position of the antenna and so on would vary. But you could still learn very precise instantaneous patterns information, wind direction, and so on. Those things you can learn. So that is what we are working on. And one particular is what we work on learning based and fingerprinting based beam alignments, where we are trying to learn what worked before and accumulating that in a state machine and making those decisions. So what I think in general is that in 4G, 5G times we have certain on-location information. I actually have a paper here back in 2014 where we elaborated on what we thought could be useful for communication, location communications. In the 5G times, this was refined then by the need of millimeter communications. Because here, if we have standalone millimeter communications, we need to align the beams. Otherwise, you don't hear each other. So to have some more precise angle information and also the range information, one way or the other prior, maybe from sub-6, you could get this guide and know where you are. Whereas if you go even higher up, like I think we should do in 60 times, sorry. Then it's getting even more important to think about the geometry system. And this is why I think the scientific fields of communication sensing are also converging, because localization and mapping information, that's about geometries. Communications have been more about statistical and maybe being directions, but the more precise information we have of geometries, the better communication we can do. Avoid outage, avoid interference in wrong direction, be more efficient. So we should identify what are the good reflexes in the environment and aim at those. And there are RSs that are maybe incompatible, and of course we should aim at those as well. So going this direction, think about geometries when we communicate. So one example that we worked on is what's called remarking avoidance, where the vehicles go along the road, they share their location, they share their speed, they share their trajectory, and they communicate the needs. And then you know when it is wise to communicate. For example, what's the latency of the need to this vehicle? Should I communicate here or can I wait a little bit later? Because a little bit later here, that might be blocked over the truck if you go faster than the truck. So either I can do that, I wait, or if it's urgent, okay, I better either communicate now. If I cannot, then I need to go to another destination, do corporate communications, and send from the other direction instead. So I reach you sometime. And this is the same again then if I have another kind of help. So, so we investigate that, and we saw that we could actually do quite well here compared to the GNA, the full corporate base station system. Here, where we estimated those directories and so on, we could get quite similar throughput as the GNA did, fully informed system. So this is what I want to aim for. I think we should go towards what I call context-aided communications. And I define context as any information that can guide the communications without explicit instantaneous measurements. So we can adapt the use of our resources, wireless resources. So this can be location-based offline statistical channel knowledge. It can be location-based online accumulated channel knowledge, sensing information by other systems, resources, and pilots we normally use communication, or we can maybe even know them on autopilot stuff. And then intentions such as moving directions, upper layer communication buffer, and flow status. and then also enabling any more information we could have about what's the purpose of the communication. So action-oriented communication or notes and information. And finally, some situation awareness, for example, what's the trustfulness of the information. So I can weigh that in as well. So here I think it could be interesting to accumulate this kind of information in a digital twin. I guess a recap here of what I meant with context information. So we are working on this in a Charles internal project where we it is for telling it a city environment where we also have an RES that we can help to communicate, but we are then doing a mapping information on what are the communications properties, and then we are using that for proactive resource allocation. And this is also part of this is that we have a visualization step, because we also want to tell planners what communications environments are good for wireless. And the reason for this is once again the goal of 6G to be very trustful infrastructure, because cities we have a lot of regulations when it comes to supply of water and electricity and drainage systems and public transport and everything. But the wireless connectivity, that's something after that, something you think about afterwards. We think that this should be as critical infrastructure and as reliable. And you should actually plan for it. So if we can do digital twin simulations here, and we can present that in a very pedagogical way with help of advanced visualization tools, that can trigger city planners to do cities that actually are friendly also for the wireless communications. So we are working with the map department at Chalmers on digital twinning. They have so far worked on digital twins of cities for all these 12 purposes: urban resources, mitigate traffic congestion, enhance urban sustainability, monitor air quality, adapt to climate change, combat social and spatial segregation, control of pollution, combat carbon management, improving comfort and fire safety, measures predicting infectious disease spread, and scale infrastructure maintenance. And we really think that city should be an nerve system of the brain of the smart city. So that is important part. If you're interested in this platform, it's called ETCC, and it's an open source platform. So you're very welcome to contribute and work on it. So what we are working on is adding this electromagnetic fields component to it as an inherent part of the platform. The one case study is because of a big parking place at Chalmers that I want to get the cars out from and build more buildings. So more clean city. And this is actually what we're looking for. But they have this is the parking area there, and this is the person. And they so far they have a different building configurations. They've done a lot of wind, noise, and other performance metrics simulations for the city. Okay, what are good buildings? And then we do the same now for wireless well-being. So, and that should be the joint decision of village should be. So finally, I think I will wrap up soon now. I just want to highlight that we have this strong track record for the work on distributed MIMO systems, and and there's so many degrees of freedom how to design an MIMO system. If it should be central distributed or something in between, while the wireless for frontal have full duplex, coherent or non-coherent or something in between. So we're working on all these degrees of freedom for advanced environmental design. And also it depends a lot on the deployment, especially so surrounded users with access points or there are also a more continuous and then what kind of frequency bands are looking into here. Is it targeting to interference control or just or blocking avoidance and outage avoidance with microversity? And then here we see so good opportunities for collecting this dynamic information of the blockers with the help of sensing. Someone else earlier today mentioned about just as the multistatic sensing. A DMIMO network is very well suited for implementing multistatic sensing, both for several radar transmitters and several detectors. So we are working on that now to foresee what are clever approaches for integrating the ISAC in DMIMO. So my take-home messages here. Converged communication sensing with the context information, context-aided communications and to enable dense and reliable communication with reasonable overhead. Or digital twinning might be used for static a priori context information. Integrated sensing seems very promising for acquiring dynamic context information. And we see also a great potential here, some challenges with integrated sensor computation in the DMIMO. So we think that's a very rich research field. So we are very happy to collaborate with you. So that was my